Which states have shifted the most on a presidential level between 2012 and 2016? Today on Political Access, we're going to take a look at the political shifts in all of these states between these two elections. I've looked at other shifts for elections since 2000, and this is the last one to do for consecutive elections. So we want to see how much of a change there was just between 4 years. So I've made my own spreadsheet here, and we have the states here in the first column, followed by the Democratic vote in 2012, which is Barack Obama. The Republican vote in 2012, that was Mitt Romney. Jump ahead to the Democratic vote in 2016, that is Hillary Clinton. Republican vote in 2016, Donald Trump. The Democratic shifts between those 2 years, followed by the Republican shifts. And the last column, that is the net change between the two parties between the two elections. And I also have some shading. The lightest colors are under a 5-point shift. The darkest red and blues, those are 10 or more point shifts. So a couple things to point out. There was third-party vote that took away from both of these candidates in 2016. Gary Johnson from the Libertarian Party, he got over 3% of the vote nationally. Some states that plays more of a role than others. I'll point out some of them. But essentially, these two elections are going from Barack Obama's second term into the Trump era. So a lot of these shifts are favorable for the Republicans. Trump was able to win that electoral college. He flipped some states that hadn't gone red in a while. Meanwhile, some other states did go further to the left, as they were both opposed to Trump as well as unenthused by Clinton. I'm not going to list all the details of these elections. I'm just here to take a look at the data and look at the shifts. So let's get started in Alabama. In 2012, Barack Obama got 38.4% of the vote. Mitt Romney got 60.6%. Jump ahead to 2016, Hillary Clinton sank down to 34.5%. Trump ticked up to 62.1%. That's a net loss of 3.9% for the Democrats. Net gain of 1.5% for the Republicans. In total, that is a 5.4% shift toward the Republicans. Now we can go a little quicker through the rest of this. Next state is Alaska, and we can see both parties lost support there. 4.2% for the Democrats, 3.5% for the Republicans. Here's a state where the third-party vote definitely played a role. But in the end, the result was still a net 0.7% shift in favor of the Republicans. Next, in Arizona, this state went to the left by 5.6%. Arkansas, that went back toward the Republicans by 3.2%. Next, in California, they went 7% away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. Colorado, they had very minimal shift there. Again, both parties lost support, but the final result was a 0.5 point gain for the Republicans. Connecticut, that's a blue state, but that went 3.7% toward the Republicans. Delaware, that's another blue state, but that had a big shift, 7.2% toward the Republicans. Florida, smaller shift there, 2.1% toward the Republicans. Next in Georgia, that is a state that really starts moving away from the Republicans, and we can see it here. It went 2.6% toward the Democrats. Hawaii is a very blue state, but that had a big lurch toward the right by 10.3%. Idaho had almost no net change, only 0.1% toward the GOP. Illinois also moved in that direction by 0.3%. Indiana, big shift to the right by 8.8%. Iowa had an even bigger shift, a whopping 15.3% in favor of the GOP. Kansas, 1.1% in the other direction toward the Democrats. Kentucky went 7.1% toward the Republicans. Louisiana, 2.4% toward the Republicans. Maine, double digits, 12.4% toward the Republicans. How about in Maryland? Well, that went 0.3% toward the Democrats. In Massachusetts, that state got 4% bluer in 2016 over 2012. In Michigan, that was a state Donald Trump was able to flip narrowly, and that went a big 9.8% toward the Republicans. Minnesota, that also went 6.2% toward the GOP. Mississippi, same direction by 6.3%. Missouri, 9.1% in the same direction, as well as Montana by 6.7%. Nebraska, a little bit smaller shift, 3.3% toward the GOP. In Nevada, that went 4.3% toward the right. New Hampshire got 5.3% redder. New Jersey as well by 3.7%. New Mexico is a state where Gary Johnson got over 9% support in. He was the governor of New Mexico previously. And we see the Democrats lost 4.7%, Republicans lost 2.8%. That's a net 1.9% shift toward the Republicans. New York, that went 5.6% toward the GOP. In North Carolina, that went 1.6%. In North Dakota, big shift there, 16.2% away from the Democrats. Ohio, toward the Republicans by 11.1%. That is a state that Barack Obama had won twice. And ever since then, it has become mostly a red state. The next state is Oklahoma. That's already a very red state, but it went 2.8% more toward the Republicans. Oregon, very little shift there, 1% toward the GOP. Pennsylvania, that's another state that Donald Trump was able to flip in that Rust Belt, and it moved 5.9% toward the Republicans. Next in Rhode Island, that we think of as a blue state, but that went pretty hard toward the Republicans by 12%. South Carolina, 3.7% toward the GOP. South Dakota also went toward the GOP by 11.8%. Tennessee, that state got redder by 5.6%. Texas, that state's going a little bit toward the left. Even in this environment, it still went 6.8% toward the Democrats. Next in Utah, that had the biggest shift of all, nearly 30 points, 29.9 points away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. Even with that much of a shift, it still wasn't really all that competitive. Now, the extenuating factor in Utah was Evan McMullin. He ran a third-party campaign. He was from Utah. He got a lot of support there, over 21% of the vote. Hillary Clinton only did a little bit better than that. So that explains a lot of why the Republicans lost a lot of support there. Next in Vermont, in 2016, Bernie Sanders actually got over 5.5% from write-in votes, so that caused the Democrats' support to drop there by double digits. Republicans also lost over a point, but the end result is a 9.7% shift toward the Republicans. Virginia, that state got a little bit bluer by 1.4%. Washington as well, small change there, only 0.8 toward the Democrats. West Virginia was becoming one of the reddest states in the country, and we see it moved another 15.3 toward the Republicans. Wisconsin, Donald Trump was able to flip that state, and it shifted 7.6 in favor of the Republicans. And finally, the last state is Wyoming. That's already a red state, but it went a little bit further toward the right by 5.5 points. So those are all of the states and all of the shifts. And we can do one more thing with this data. We can take it all and apply it to a map to help visualize the changes. And here it is. It's the same basic shading, 10 or more point shifts. Those are the solid red or blue colors. And then there's all the way down to 4 levels of shading. The very lightest colors, those are under 1 point shifts. We'll say those are the tilt margins. So as already expected, there's a lot of red on this map, and a lot of it is darker as well. Now, Democrats did have some gains in those critical states of Arizona, Texas, Georgia, but it was not enough to outweigh the lurches toward the Republicans in those Rust Belt states, the former blue wall of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. If you compare this to the change from 2004 to 2008, when many voters were looking for a change from George Bush, they found Barack Obama. Much of this map was very dark blue. This isn't the exact opposite of that, but there is enough red on here to indicate that voters did want a lot of change after 8 years of Obama. It was a very polarizing election, wasn't that long ago, and the key question is, what's going to happen in 2 years in 2024? It's going to be up to both parties to either accelerate the trend in some of these states or try to reverse it. Either way, the election did come down to a small percentage of vote in a handful of states, both in 16 as well as in 20. And it certainly might be that way again in the next election. So feel free to find any takeaways you'd like in any of these states. Again, some of the third-party vote does skew some of the results a bit, but this is all the data that I had. I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of these shifts. But for right now, let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the shifts in any of these states? Let me know down below, and on your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.